We are expecting some more people, but I think we'll make a start. So on behalf of CMI, I'd like to welcome you all to this afternoon's webinar. We're very excited about launching this really unique product in Australia here. And I'd like to also take the opportunity to thank Chris for presenting for us. So I'll hand it over to you, Chris, and we should be good to get started.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. For me, it's always great talking about things like that in times like that when we can't travel and meet people on site and present new products. So the reason why we talk about the media series, Scale especially, is because it's one of our newest products, and luckily, I'd like to say that luckily, we presented these product ranges at Amsterdam 2020 at ISE, because that was just in time before this craziness started. And now this is the top selling product, as you can imagine, because that fits well into conference rooms and webinar applications and stuff like that. So that saved our business quite a lot at the moment, because now more and more products like that go into the market instead of rock and roll speakers and big line arrays and stuff like that. So that's, for us, that was a good thing that we had it already working before this COVID-19 thing started. So we're not only talking about the scale speakers, we will also look at the video bar that we just released,
hosting it,
and also at the system amplifier that you can see on the right bottom of this
picture. It should be in the email.
All of this is a system in the end. So what is it? It's a passive speaker system. It's a point source that looks like a column speaker. So we are using our known column enclosures and put in a point source speaker. We're trying to get a result that doesn't need a subwoofer anymore, because in applications, in smaller applications where this speaker is used for, people don't have the space or don't want to put a subwoofer in there. So no bulky boxes, but they want a thin and nicely designed speaker left and right the screen, for example. So we added a passive membrane system, which is a new, it's a very old technology, but we just made a new generation of it and brought it back into products like that, which helps us to lower the frequency range down to a crossover at 44 Hertz, which is pretty massive for a 4-inch speaker system. It's all driven by the system amplifier. We will have a closer look at that later. It's very simple to use, very easy, and fits into that market price-wise and also from the performance. Our nickname in Europe is the architect's best friend, which means we're always taking care of the architect's needs. So we, besides always doing rare colors and different things and finishes, we also now decided to adjust the length of the speakers. Because if you put a speaker left and right the screen, this might be the perfect position, but it looks ugly if they don't have the same height as the screen has. So that's why we now deliver these speakers either in standard length, the scale 1 and the scale 2, or in your special length fitting to your needs. So the idea was to combine perfect musical sound and intelligibility in one and the same product. Because when you look at rooms like that, conference rooms, webinar rooms, seminar rooms, it's not all about speech. They will also play an advertising movie, or the marketing department will show some new results or things like that. So we learned from our customers that it's not all about speech, and we're not talking only about web conferences and seminars, but at the same time, we need to play back music and movie content and stuff like that. So that's why we were looking at this low frequency range as well, and trying to get these needs into one and the same product, which we realize with different presets or by using different inputs of the 4-channel amplifier. We will talk about that later as well. So the standard products in the scale series are scale 1 and scale 2. The difference is that the scale 1 is equipped with only one 4-inch driver and one high-frequency driver, and it has one sub-extension, which is this passive membrane technology. And the scale 2 is equipped with two 4-inches and also one high-frequency driver, which is a 0.75-inch tweeter. The main difference is not the performance, but the size. So you can get more out of a 2 4-inch woofer system for sure, but that's not the biggest difference. The main difference why people buy different models is the length. So the smaller one, the scale 1, is 35 centimeters long, and the scale 2 is 65 centimeters long. Both of them have the same enclosure, so that's just a different length, but the other dimensions are the same. So they are 13 centimeters wide and 12.8 centimeters depth. So that's what we have. It's an aluminum enclosure. You might know that from other products already. So we use this enclosure for many different Fohhn products. And so it's a design that people already know and that was always asked for. That was the reason why we went into that. It's a very flexible product because of its technical idea using a point source. It's very easy to implement and to position the speaker. So you can put it into a corner, you can put it left and right your screen, you can put it under a screen. That what also leads to the video bar that we will see later. And you can put it outdoors. So these speakers, I don't know if you can see that on the right now. So on my screen, there's always the videos in front of it. So you can put speakers outdoors because they're fully weatherproof. And there's also a mounting option to put them into a ceiling. So we've got the first customers now ordered that for shopping malls and museums, and they were installing it into the ceiling even. So many different options inside or outside. That's very important to know, because also amusement parks and cruise ships, for example, are projects where these speakers are used. Yeah, talked about it already. So it's made to measure. It's just tailor-made, you could say. So if you have a project where you want to put the speakers left and right a screen or left and right a window or whatever, and if you need a special size, you just let us know, and within 2 weeks we deliver this custom-made speakers. So we make this process in these products a standard process, which means it's not that expensive, and we can realize it quite quickly within normally 10 days. So that's a big change for us because we never had that before. You always had the option to order a special made speaker for you and change something, but now it's that quick and that cheap because we have a standard in this process. So that's pretty good. And as always, I keep repeating that because we were the first loudspeaker manufacturer in the world who always did Orel colors and any other colors like NTFS and things like that for all of our speakers. And it's the same with the scale series. So you can order them in different colors, all the colors you can imagine. And if this is not enough, you can also have the texture designs that you can see on the right side of the page. I also have one here to show you how it looks. So I'm putting that into the camera. So that's one of these housings in wooden design. So that's a printing technology that comes from the car industry. And since we are based in southern Germany, where many car manufacturers are based as well, we can use the same suppliers. And so we are able to use this texture design technology for speakers with a length up to 2.5 meters. So in many applications, like for example, churches or historical buildings, these options are used quite often because that helps the architect to hide the speakers into the unique visual atmosphere of a room like that. Yeah, so it contains about 4,000 different designs. Combined with the background color, you can easily match to every background where you want to mount the speakers. Yeah, where do we use scale speakers? At the moment, the biggest topic seems to be conference rooms, convention halls, lecture hall, things like that. So it's a very easy to use and easy to install product for smaller conference rooms and things like that. So we also have that as display sound systems. What does it mean? So it's the same. Again, it might be a conference room or it might be an office. And at the same time, it could also be a museum or an exhibition. So they're also used normally on the road for mobile applications like exhibitions, for example. Yeah, you will find them in events and companies everywhere around. But also it's a good speaker because they are full range and they are not that expensive. It's also a good solution for restaurants, bars, shopping centers, and things like that, because people were always asking for nicely designed solutions at a certain price range. And at the same time, again, it's not easy to put subwoofers into projects like that. So if you imagine a shopping mall, it's all made of concrete and glass, all beautiful, and you put 15-inch subs in there, it might look ugly, and you don't have the height and the ceiling to put it in there. So that's why many of these scale speakers go in projects like that. I will show you some pictures later. And we're pretty much into cruise ships since a few years, so you find lots of them on cruise ships. That's why they are weatherproof. That was the idea at the beginning of the R&D process, that we said, we need to put them on board of cruise ships. And we also have customers that design and equip adventure parks and leisure attractions. So we also wanted to go into these markets as well with a product like that. So if people are queuing up, there's always playing music and things like that in front of a roller coaster and so on. And yeah, that's where you find these speakers already. So we started selling them in February, and more than 150 projects are now realized already with these scale speakers. So you can see some examples here, like a bar and yeah, a restaurant and things like that. Also in shops. So in the past, we were equipping with our ARC series, which is our standard installation speaker series. We equipped more than 1,500 shops all over Europe, clothing shops. And they always had the complaints that they don't want to put boxes on the walls or boxes under the ceiling. So now we changed for these column look speakers. And so it's much easier to integrate them visually. Yeah, you will find them in boardrooms and exhibitions, outdoors. So we just finalized a project in China because their business is going quite well again. So they were ordering many of these speakers for outdoor amusement parks. Yeah, cruise ships, showrooms, yeah. So Mercedes-Benz, one of our neighbors here, they equipped already 550 concert stores with our speakers and video bars. And they also use the scale series for their conference and webinar rooms. And on the bottom right, you can see a shopping mall in Leeds in the UK. That one was equipped with 2 or 3 years ago, and we were using speakers quite similar to the scale. We didn't have the product then, so we made a special tailored product for them, so custom product, which is pretty similar to what we now have in the scale series. So that was one of the reasons why we got into that idea. Yeah, just a quick look at the amplifier. It's a 4-channel amplifier. We will see the details later. It's fully equipped with 4 inputs, 4 outputs. So it has a 4x4 matrix. You can either have it in analog option or Dante option. So when you have the analog option, you can switch your inputs to microphone inputs as well, which means you have a very versatile and flexible solution, for example, for a conference room. So you can connect your web conference system, your sound system, if you're playing back music or movies or stuff like that. So you can connect your players to 1 or 2 other inputs, and you still have an input free for a speaker microphone. The second column of the series is the horizontal version of the scale bar. We call it the scale video bar, because video bar seems to be the name at the moment. So more and more video conferences like we do here are going on now, and people are using systems like that. And everybody was asking for a simple to use but good sounding system, because once you started doing webinars, web conferences, and so on, you will find out the problems that you have. So now, when I'm sitting here alone in a small office talking to my computer, this should work quite well for you while you're listening to me. But when I'm sitting in a larger room together with colleagues, working together, sharing our work, sharing our ideas with colleagues all over the world, everybody finds out quite quickly that sound is a big problem. So even if you can't see the colleagues, that's not the big thing, or if the picture is not that well, or you see some pixels or whatever, or video connection interrupts. But as soon as the sound doesn't work anymore, you're lost. So communication is based on talking in these cases still. And in the beginning, everybody around me or around us in Europe was, at the beginning of this COVID-19 thing, lots of companies were investing into conferencing systems for the first time. So in the past, they were always flying to see their customers or colleagues all over the world, and they did phone conferences. And now they saw, this might take a bit longer, and we will sit here in our offices and we have to talk to people, share our ideas with them. So we need video conferencing systems. But the experiences they made in the beginning were quite bad, because they were disappointed by the solutions they got. So they bought all-in-one devices, somewhere at Amazon or whatever, to make it quick and cheap, which I understand, but they were not satisfied by the sound or even by the video solution sometimes. And more people were calling us and said, you're the professionals in audio, so why doesn't it work in our rooms? And why do we have echoes? Why do we have feedbacks? Why isn't it loud enough? We have no intelligibility and so on. And so that's why we got into that market very quickly, because we are professional audio guys. So we always did audio. We never took care about video. We have no idea about things like that. But we always knew how intelligibility works in different environments and so on. And so we decided to make a video bar as well and create a professional solution for professional video meetings and video conferences, and concentrate on the sound quality and the intelligibility. There are 2 versions available. One is the scale bar, which is only a sound system, a speaker. It's again driven by the MA4100, our small amplifier. So it's a passive speaker, and it's a 2-channel speaker. So it's a stereo system. Left and right, you will find a scale 1 speaker. So it's just like 2 scale 1 speakers in one enclosure. And on the right, you can see the scale bar cam, which is our second model. That one is prepared for a Hadley cam. Hadley seems to be one of the brands at the moment that are selling many cameras into the market. Maybe you know something different at the moment. In Europe, this seems to be a big thing. So it's already prepared for the use with a Hartley cam. But if you need it for the use with a different cam, you can let us know, and we can manufacture these speakers as well with the option for a different cam that can be built in there if it fits in there. If not, you can also use an external camera, so you're free to choose the position of the cam and put the speaker still under the screen or whatever. So there are different ideas out there, so that's why we decided to have two different models to fulfill all the needs of everybody out there. The sound is the same. So again, we have a crossover frequency at 44 Hertz. So you can play down to 44, which means you can run music on it, it will sound good, you can watch a movie on it or present marketing stuff and so on. But at the same time, you can run your contents on different inputs and tune these inputs or just load presets for the best intelligibility, even in bad acoustics or in challenging acoustics. Again, the speaker is scalable. So the standard width is 122 centimeters, and you can have it in a length up to 2.2 meters, which should fit, I think, a 130-inch screen. 122 centimeters is the standard width, or is something where most of the 55-inch screens are at the moment. Yeah, and as you can see, it looks much nicer if it has the same dimensions as the screen. So that's why I went there. The connection is quite simple, even though it's not all-in-one solution, because we are not selling the cam, we're not manufacturing the cam. So we deliver the amplifier, the scale bar, and a set of cables. So there's a USB cable with it, and there's the audio cables with it, and the speaker cable with it already. So it's easy to connect it even for the customer. So even the IT guys of a company can install that system easily. What we not deliver is the camera, but all these cams that are used in the market at the moment are plug-and-play systems that are just plugged in by USB and easily installed. It can be used with Zoom or Teams or software like that very easily. So in the beginning, we were thinking about, and we were discussing with Hartley, if we want to sell their cam and things like that, like other manufacturers do. I mean, there's a soundbar from Bose and Yamaha and so on. But talking to consultants and integrators, we found out that nobody was really satisfied with these all-in-one solutions. So we were happy not putting the things together, but staying with what really can do and achieve, and that's professional audio. So that's why you still have the possibility to put in the cam that you like and that your customer needs. Yeah, so that's the three most important things. It's a professional speaker, and it's made by specialists that are known for higher speech intelligibility. It's a modern amplifier system that gives you lots of possibilities to integrate your devices that you have in your conference room, for example, and you can add a camera. Yeah, we always show it with the Hartley, but I'm happy to hear from you what you would use at the moment. So yeah, so we believe the Fohhn video bar is the best solution for conference rooms. Size-wise, I would say for a room up to 10 meters long, 15 meters long, for 8 to 10 people sitting in front of the system, that's what I would say is the size where systems like that go into. So we just made some installations with much larger rooms. Even here in-house in our new headquarters, we installed one of these systems in a room that is 18 meters long, and up to 25, 30 people fit in there, and it still works, even with this camera, which says it works for 8 people. So It depends maybe on the room acoustics and also the angles that are there for optical things. So yeah. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the amplifier, because that's the centerpiece of all the systems. And then I was pretty fast. There's not much to talk about, but hopefully you will have some questions where you can talk about. So the amplifier, I also have it here. It's a very small half-unit system. It has 4 channels, 4 times 70 watts. So the name is a bit weird for 4 times 100, I don't know. It has 4 times 70 watts on 4 ohms. And as I said before, you can either have it in the Dante option, so you just connect to IP-based Ethernet, or you can have the analog version, and the analog version has 4 analog inputs that you can switch between line input or microphone input. And that's where they fit in so many different applications. So not only web conferences or the video zone, you can also use a microphone. You could do a small church with that as well. So what means small church? I saw a customer, he installed 2 weeks ago, he installed a church with our LX220, which is a 2.2 meter long column speaker that we use in challenging acoustics like churches. And that normally runs on 800 watts. So that's a large speaker system. But he was using that in a Catholic church, 4 of these speakers, and 1 of these amplifiers. And he invited me to listen to the result. And it was really, really impressive how that still works. Because what do they need in a Catholic church? They don't have rock and roll music in there. They need a good intelligibility. They only have speech and some choir singing, and it works quite well. So there was no need for a bigger amplifier. And he even used the microphone inputs of the amplifier and was controlling the whole system with media control. So in the church, they were just pushing some buttons for different scenarios and switching on and off the microphones, changing the levels, changing some presets. And they were all doing that with this amplifier. So that was interesting to see that, because we never had a one-stop sale like that before, because that's the first time that we implemented microphone inputs. And it was good to see that. Now here we can see the amplifier from the back. It has these 4 inputs. We can see the analog version, so up there the analog inputs. And you can imagine when you have 4 inputs in a conference room, in a smaller applications, you can have different combinations that help you to solve different problems. As I said before, imagine when you plug in your web conference in channel 1, but plug in on channel 2 and 3 a stereo system playing back content from your computer, and on channel 4, for example, a wireless microphone that you use to speak to people inside the room. Then you can EQ differently or just load different user presets that we provide with the system already. So you can have a full range preset for your stereo playback channels, and you can have a speech optimized preset that, so we were looking at these different, there are some standards, IC and DIN standards that are used for voice and conferencing systems. So we implemented that as presets for the web conferencing. And then you can set up your microphone channel on input 4, for example. At the same time, you have 4 amplified outputs. So you can have, for example, 4 scale speakers, or you just install 2 scale speakers, some ceiling speakers, or a delay line, or you want to add a subwoofer if you need more low end, or whatever you need. So that's pretty easy to use. Sure, we have a universal power supply, that's standard now, and you have a phone area input. Area is a combination of our control network, which is an RS485, a power connection, which enables the system to be remotely switched on and off when you have an area master somewhere. So for larger applications like multi-room things, you could install one area master and a number of these amplifiers and switch them on and off remotely by the master. And you can use this area connection for AS audio. So you could receive AS inputs with these area connections as well. So you have a digital input as well available on the amplifier. And you can see the phone net connection, which is RS485. So that's no magical trick behind it. So that would be the right connector to implement your system into a media control. And you have a switch up there, which is a switching contact, which allows you to load presets or switch on and off the amplifier with 2 different switches. So you can switch between different scenarios, and every night you can switch off the system, for example. Some sample applications. So yeah, there's no need to explain all these applications. You can see that quickly. So it's always showing one amplifier and different combinations of speakers. So on the upper left, you can see 2 scale speakers, left and right, or 2 LX speakers, left and right a screen, adding a subwoofer on the bottom and a delay line, which means you can easily equip a boardroom for 45 persons with a small MA4-100 amplifier. There's a larger conference room on the right upper, which is equipped with our ARC speakers, also a subwoofer and a delay line. So you can see there are different options, also ceiling speakers. So we made a quite cheap ceiling speaker, especially for the media series now. Cheap because we reduced the crossover, what's it called? Yeah, the crossover parts, so the passive crossover in there. And now we run them on speaker presets. So you can't use it with other amplifiers, but with our MA4-100, which means you save the money in the passive parts of the speaker and get a fully controlled system. That was it already. What I have to add is, if you buy a system like that, you always get 5 years of warranty. So if it's a closed phone system, phone amplifier, phone speakers, you will get 5 years of warranty. That's brand new. So we released that yesterday. Yeah, and now I'm looking forward to get some questions from you.
Chris, it's Richard here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Thanks for that, mate. Appreciate it. Looks like a very interesting product. With the amplifier, the ARIA input, that's how you access the Dante as well?
No.
No, you get a different card set up, do you?
It's 2 different models. So the analog, we saw the analog model in there, and the Dante version doesn't have the analog inputs, but instead it has another RJ45 input.
Right. And
so then you have 2. You have the area input and you have the Dante input.
Yeah, right. And with the ARIA input, is that another way of accessing program or preset changes through that?
Yes, because ARIA contains 48 volts for, in this case, only switching on and off, RS485 for controlling, and AES for audio.
Okay. And the other thing, you're just the active components, I would imagine, have a standard volume of cabinet, and you're just extruding the aluminium to make the different lengths. Is that correct?
No, we cut it off. Yeah, so it's an extruded enclosure. This is the question. So we have one. It's always one profile that we use for our speakers.
Right.
And in the case of the scale speakers, we have longer enclosures in stock, and we just cut it. And you even have the choice, so you can tell us where you need the acoustic center of the speaker. So we
okay.
can
Right.
slightly move that.
And you could get a scale 1 or scale 2, depending on how large or the height of the actual enclosure would determine whether you use the scale 1 or scale 2, I guess.
Yeah, we haven't sold scale 1 in scalable length. Everybody was asking for scale 2 always.
Yeah, sure.
Because the price difference isn't that big, so it's 20%, not even 20% between these two speakers. So that's why people mainly, if they need something longer, we're asking, or all of them at the moment, we're asking for scale 2. But you can also have a scale 1 and 2.2 meter length.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's good. And so the amplifier allows matrixing. So that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, it's yeah, I like it, mate. It's fantastic.
Oh, good to hear. Thank you.
Chris, we have a couple of questions from John and Mark in the Q&A box. Have you got that on your screen there?
Yes, now I got it. What is the recommended cable length from the amp to speaker in analog? It's so the first of all, the connection between amplifier and speaker is always analog. So that's the power output. You can calculate that. So it depends on the diameter of the cable and on what you want to do with it. So it's a 70-watt amplifier. If you calculate it, it might say 100 meter for a 2 times 2.5 square millimeter cable. We did so many tests in the past with large scale systems for concert sound, and we never had a problem with cable length or diameters when you're not looking at very low frequencies, which we're not doing with these amplifiers. So yeah, you could run up to 100 meters, I would say, easily. What DSP do we have for loudspeaker tuning in the MA4100? It's our standard Fohhn DSP that we have. So if you don't know that, I can tell you that. You have a dynamic section, including a limiter, compressor, and a noise gate. You have a 10-band full parametric equalizer. You have the matrix, which means you have a 4x4 level control. What else? You can save 100 presets, which you can easily recall with a switching contact or by media control. You have a delay for every channel. And all these settings you have twice. So you have it for the input and for the output side of the amplifier. So with every input, you have, for example, a 10-band full parametric equalizer, and with every output, you have a 10-band full parametric equalizer. So you can EQ the speakers differently to the used sources on the inputs, for example. If you want to have a closer look at it, you can download the Fohhn Audio software on our website. It's for free, and you can play around with offline devices. So you add an offline device, for example, this amplifier, this MA4100, and it will show up as if it would be connected. So you can see all the tools and so on. And it's the same for every Fohhn product. So we always use the same DSP structure. And does it include pre-configured limiting to protect the loudspeakers? Yes. So we are system manufacturer, which means we're not only manufacturing speakers, we also develop and manufacture these amplifiers. So it's all made in-house here in Germany. And one of these, the things we gain from that is the experience that we know more and more about electronics and acoustics and mechanical things. So we bring these things together, and the core thing, it's also a reason why we can give this 5 years of warranty, is the speaker preset. So in every amplifier, you always can choose two different presets. One is the user preset that gives you the application. And the second one is the speaker preset. So for every amplifier output, you need to load the corresponding speaker preset for the speaker that is connected. That will protect your speaker with a multiband limiter. And there are different other settings, like also some EQ adaptations and things like that, to get the full performance and the best security of your system at the same time. So yeah, the answer of this question would be yes, there are speaker presets in there. The next one is the DSP doing any equalization of the speaker? Yes, it does. We didn't do that in the past. In the past, Fohhn, I mean 5 years ago, still we were standing for passively harmonized, equalized speakers that could be run on every amplifier. But we changed this philosophy during the last years, since we're doing our own electronics, because of the performance. Now, when you buy a system containing the amplifier and the speaker, the core option or the core thing is the speaker preset. And that allows you to get the best performance out of the speaker, and at the same time, a protected system that will always work securely and safely. So yes, it also has equalization for some products. Not all of the products need equalization, but many do. Yeah. Brilliant, thanks. Thank you very much. So it's great that you're listening to me and that you're following these things.
Chris, I'm going to leave now, but I appreciate your time this afternoon or this evening. So yeah, many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard.
Enjoy. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, you have the same DSP control over Dante. So when you're using the Dante input, you have the same DSP settings. What is not possible is the remote control via Dante at the moment. You can do that now with our DLI speakers and our newer products, but in these amplifiers, it's not implemented yet. So for setting up the amplifiers, you need to connect either through USB, that's on the front of the amp, or you have to go through the phone net connector on the back. That's a price thing. So we changed the Dante cards now for our beam steering products. So in these products, it will be possible to connect through Dante and do the control at the same time. But you can't do that with the amplifiers. So what else do we have? Do you have any plans for active version of the loudspeakers? Just thinking of an active version of the video bar would help for small room installations. Yes. That's not the first guy who asks for that. So we're talking about that, and I am sure one day there will be an active version. But it took us the last 6 years to develop our own amplifier structure. We released the first amps last year, and 2 years ago now. And now we have this new range, the MA series amplifiers. And the next step will be active modules for speakers. And yeah, but this will take another 3 or 4 years, I would say. So we will see. Maybe this is pushing it at the moment, and we need something else earlier for conferencing systems. I don't know. We're talking a lot about that at the moment, and I keep CMI updated all the time. So you will see what's going on there in the near future. Is the speaker IP rated? It will be IP rated. The problem with IP rating is that normally you can't even rate a speaker correctly with an IP rating, because IP always says, does dust go into the system? Does water go into the system? Yes, it does. But nobody asks if it harms the system. So if it destroys the speaker, it's not destroying the speaker if water goes into it. But that's the problem why we always. I know that other manufacturers use IP rating very often, and they just tell everybody, yeah, it's 54, it's 44, something like that. We're not doing that because it doesn't really fit the IP standards. But that's why we say it's weatherproof, or it's weatherproof under, you have to use it under roof or whatever. So you could say this is like IP 44 when we say it's weatherproof. So you can put it outside, into the sun, into the rain, into the snow, without having problems with the speakers. So there will be an IP rating as well. We were discussing that because people know that rating and people trust in that. So that's why we will put an IP rating on it in the future. So, but it's fully weatherproof in this case.
Christian, what's the dispersion of the horizontal bar? It's not quoted on your spec sheet.
Yeah, we haven't measured it yet, so we were waiting for the first prototypes. For the measuring, it must be more than 90, because we use a waveguide for the high frequencies, and the low frequencies are adding up. So we run them in different parts of the crossover, and so it will be around 110, 120.
Right.
In the high frequencies.
Okay.
In total, but in the end, it's like 290-degree speakers, left and right. So it's always, when you look at it I mean, yeah, maybe that's more important to look at it from this side. So if you put it under a screen, it's like putting two 90-degree speakers under a screen. If you measure it in total, you will get a result that is less than 180 degrees because there's always an interaction.
Yeah.
But the behavior in the room is like two 90-degree speakers.
And what about the vertical?
Vertical is around 60.
Right, okay, cool. Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Chris before we finish up?
When are you coming over?
No, hopefully soon, but it's not allowed to come over now, right? You would not let me in. Oh, we've got another question. Is the amplifier convection cooled? No. It's fan cooled, but the fan will only run if it gets too hot. Now, when I talk to Australians, it's always dangerous to say that, but normally it shouldn't go on. So, and if it's going on, you will not hear it. So it's a very slow turning, pretty large fan in there. And it will switch on, if I remember right, at 71 degrees inside the electronics, which means you have to run the amplifier on full power for a long time in a hot environment.
Cool.
And as long as it's running, you will not hear the fan.
All right. Any other last minute questions before we wrap it up? One more there, Christian. Any plans for echo cancelling?
Yes, there are plans for echo cancelling already. So there's some resources of the DSP left to do things like that, like automatic mixes, echo cancelling, and so on. We work on that. We play around with it since a few months. Since mid last year, so since a year now, I would say. And we still don't have the right idea where to go to, because echo cancelling is something that is normally implemented into the conference system, like the camera or the software that you're using. So we are trying to find out which is the best way to combine with existing and already used systems. And the mixer we are already testing, so there will be a gain sharing mixer on board. But I can't say how long it takes.
Cool. All right, thank you. I think that looks like about it for all of the questions. However, yeah, just before we finish up, we'll be sending out an email tomorrow to the address that you used to register for the webinar with some more information, including pricing, which was one of Les's questions that I've answered there. We'll also have a link to the recording of the webinar as well. So on behalf of everyone at CMI, I'd like to thank you all for attending the webinar. It's such a great, unique, exciting product, and we're really pumped to have it here at CMI. And finally, I'd also like to thank Chris for his time this morning. I'm not sure how early it is over there, Chris, but thanks for your time for doing this morning. In the email tomorrow, we'll have the details for our audio solutions team. So if there are any additional questions, just let us know and we can answer them or get them onto Christian if needs be.
Sure. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Christian, and thanks very much, guys, and have a good evening.
Thank you. See you soon.
Good evening. See you soon.
Thanks, Rick.